What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the EW Podcast. Tonight, we've got a great episode planned for you. Are Rolexes made in China? Are these riots down the street going to be busting through our door any minute now? We've also got a surprise co-host. Stay tuned.
You rockin' with Seth, so you rockin' with the best. Over 25 years, we've been better than the rest. Fred, he know these watches like the back of his hand. If you wanna learn watches, guaranteed this the man. I'm just saying, EW Podcast.
So back in the house, by popular demand, Stephen Rostovsky is back with us.
Yes.
How you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Good to see you all.
Welcome back.
Thank
Welcome
you,
back.
thank you.
Welcome back, Stephen.
Thank you, all of you.
And on that note, guys, this is some unbelievable Yamazaki Japanese scotch. Can I pour you some?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. Let's get into it. You're good?
I'm tequila.
Okay, tequila. Mr. Fred.
Thank you.
All right.
Should I say arigato?
Arigato, arigato.
Sir.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
L'chaim.
Let's go. King of Independence.
So, let me have a drink. Well, Stephen, the last episode that we had you on, obviously we talked a lot about independence. Did you get some feedback from that episode that you appeared in?
Great feedback. Thank you.
All right.
Sold a few watches.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh,
Nice.
fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Nice. I know that you've been doing some research on independence. You had some questions for Stephen, actually.
Yeah, we do. So, shoot, since the last time you were here, one of the watch trends I'm seeing is that there's almost like a trickle down in terms of culture, where a lot of more enthusiast pieces seem to have that design language as like the hot horology independence. Are you noticing any trends like that have started?
Can you expand more?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I'm seeing a lot more like pieces that are affordable looking a lot like independent brands. So for example, like Urwerk, we're seeing brands that are looking a lot like Urwerk, like Angel's watches and stuff like
I've
that,
seen
or Angle's
that.
watches.
Yes.
Would you call those homages?
I tend to focus on the real deal, the more expensive watches. So I haven't really paid attention, but yes, I've seen the Mad 1, the multiple editions. I have seen, of course, the Mad 2 in videos and pictures, but I haven't seen it personally. And then Gronefeld, we know they came out with their own lesser expensive watch,
Yeah.
Made independently, or not independently, made outside of their factory. And I'm not sure what Urwerk are doing. Or you're just saying that the price point is, something looking similar to Urwerk.
So I'm
Yes,
seeing
yes.
things that are looking similar to it, or for example, like the Grown One is something that has become more approachable for like enthusiasts, so maybe they can aspire to something else afterwards.
Right.
Who makes that?
So there's I'm not sure if they're exactly the same company, but we went from Grown One. It seems like a satellite of Gronefeld.
Gronefeld, correct.
Oh.
Different name, just
okay.
like the Mad Edition watches. It's 2.5 or 3,000 Swiss francs, something like that, or euro.
Oh,
They
okay.
sell in euro. And everything's done online, and it's all independent of the factory themselves. They're not involved in the distribution process, in the selling process. It's all independent. But it has similar DNA.
Interesting.
So overall, how is your market on all the types of brands that you sell?
Really very strong right now.
Great.
I mean, the market in general is depressed, of course, and people are waiting to see what happens with tariffs and all of that. But in general, I think that the independent space has been very strong, and one of the hottest brands in the world today is FP Journe, and they're still an independent, making less than 1,000 watches a year, and their prices, even though other brands' prices have come down over the last number of years, FP Journe just keeps going up and up in the secondary market.
Gotcha. So, but the last like 2-3 months that you've been here, you are doing strong sales?
Yes,
Oh,
no
great.
problem. On
Okay.
the higher end.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right. Very nice.
All right, Stephen. So recently we've been seeing a lot of trending videos about Rolex components, or just their watches in a whole, are being manufactured in China. With your experience and the connections you have in the industry, are you hearing, information about this on your, in your area?
Honestly, no. I kind of stay away from Rolex in general. So whether they're made in Switzerland, in China, or in our back door, I wouldn't even know the difference. But I wouldn't be surprised. We're hearing a lot in the news about the luxury world. Hermes, Louis Vuitton. There's been a lot in the press recently about components and items being made not in Paris and France or in Switzerland, but being made in China. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, that's exactly right. So it was right when the tariffs started, and then the manufacturers in China started saying, "Hey, these handbags are not made in France; they're made in China." It seemed like about a week later, all of a sudden, these Chinese factories started claiming that Rolexes were also made in China. I think we have some video.
Yeah, we have a couple videos, and that's very good that you guys brought up. It actually started in like the purse world with the Hermes.
Right.
I believe it's specifically they had the Birkin. But here's a little bit of an appetizer. The guy from named Ben's Watches.
All my Swiss watches are made in China. Well, no, but sometimes, but I guess kind of. There's been this trend online about luxury products that are actually made in China. I even had a video do over 5 million views on this specific topic on TikTok. So are they? Well, in order to be Swiss made, you have to have these sort of criteria. Movement must be assembled and inspected in Switzerland. 60% of the movement production costs must be in Switzerland. 50% of the value of the components must also be Swiss. The watch must be assembled in Switzerland. Final inspection of the watch in general must be in Switzerland. 60% of the total manufacturing costs of the watch in general must be in Switzerland. And technical development must be in Switzerland. There might be some other criteria. Basically, 40% of the movement cost of parts, or the cost of parts in general, can take place anywhere. Kind of like China. Some are more and some are less. The fascinating thing is Chinese watchmakers are actually like really good. We're not what they used to be 15, 20 years ago. Some watch brands was like 100% of it, like the box is made in China. But what's interesting is that 60% of the value, and that the labor costs are more expensive in Switzerland, obviously. So it even could be like 20% of the watch is actually made in Switzerland and like 80% is made in China because the cost of labor is so low. But in general, Chinese watchmaking is catching up. And you can see that with brands like Atelier One. What do you think?
So we have a couple videos actually swirling around from factories in China, straight claiming, yes, we are making these components. Let's go ahead and check out this first video that sparked a lot of fire.
$1,000 Rolex on your wrist wasn't what you think it is. What if that handcrafted Swiss precision you've been flexing is actually born under fluorescent lights in a Chinese factory next to 1,000 other identical pieces? Because right now, the luxury watch industry is spiraling. And the reason? China just dropped the receipts. A wave of viral TikToks and insider leaks just tore the velvet curtain off the watch world. We're not talking knockoffs, we're talking real parts, real materials, real manufacturers, just without the Swiss marketing fairy tale. And suddenly, people are asking the question no brand wants to hear. If it's really Swiss made, why does it look like it came out of Shenzhen?
Okay, so, I mean, for the most part, after these videos came out, this whole theory that these watches, Rolex specifically, is manufactured in China has been completely debunked. I mean, Stephen, from your expertise and your knowledge about what happens in Switzerland, is this even possible that they can be made in China?
I'm not the expert to even answer some of this. I'm seeing this for the first time. I guess it is possible, based on some of the rules and regulations, to be Swiss made and to still be officially Swiss made. If in fact one of the videos we see is that 60% of the value has to be in Switzerland, and we know that the cost of manufacture is higher in Switzerland, the cost of labor is higher, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the components are being made elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I mean, if that really became fact, I mean, if somehow somebody could really prove that, I think that would really severely affect the value of a lot of these watches. Also, what a lot of people say is this is the reason why a lot of the Rolex clones are so damn good, is because the same factory is actually making some of the cases, possibly some of the parts, dials, whatnot.
Freddie and I were actually talking in the back, like about Panerai.
Yeah,
we're
right.
literally like chopping it up in the back. We're like, how do you tell the difference with Panerais?
Right. Immediately, it's the crystal on the Panerai.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's always very glassy, super thick. You know, it doesn't have that nice, clear transparency to it. It's always, and it protrudes past the bezel a bit.
But the same applies coming back to the purse business, the Birkins. I'm sure that the Birkins have the exact same quality, or almost the exact same quality, the fake ones, as the real ones. And then you have to question, is it in fact coming out of the same place?
Yeah, it's a scary proposition for sure. But so far, it's been debunked. There's nobody saying otherwise right now. And I've been seeing personally that the demand for Rolex, even though the demand hasn't necessarily increased recently, I still see pricing stagnant and it's not dipping. In fact, some dealers I was talking to today, they're having such a difficult time actually getting merchandise with the duties and the tariffs. Excuse me.
Yeah.
They are raising their prices on brand new Rolexes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Authorized dealers or secondary
No, I'm
market
talking about
dealers?
gray market
Gray,
guys
sure.
that specialize
Yeah,
in
dealer
brand
to
new
dealer.
watches.
Okay.
They're, back in January, I had it in my notes. This one dealer would sell a watch to me. He wanted 24/7 for this one two-tone with diamond bezel. And this morning when I talked to him, I wanted to actually buy that watch, and he raised the price to 27.5. The same exact watch that he's been holding since December.
Wow.
Right.
He needed $3,000 more because he said, hey, this watch is going to cost me 10% more when I go to replace it.
He can't
So there's
replace.
no reason to blow it out today. He didn't need money, I guess.
I'm also seeing like gray market with cards and papers getting a little bit more of a premium than it was a year ago. Year ago, papers premium was not so much. Now I'm seeing it hike up maybe 10% more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, that's because the authenticity versus a potential fake watch, which might have the same quality but doesn't have all the correct paperwork?
I think we have a new influx of buyers that might have trust issues, but there also seems like a supply issue. So I'm getting less inventory, but I'm also getting a lot new eyes to the hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it's a supply issue, and also I'm starting to see more true watch collectors are shopping again. You're not just getting the flippers looking at, inquire if you have a watch, you'll quickly buy it and flip it for $300. But I'm spending more time on the phone with inquiries. We're talking about components, we're talking about specifications. It's not just about the value. They're really bringing up their stories on why they're buying that watch. So I feel like most collectors like to collect watches complete.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
We've been talking quite a bit of a range of brands, all the way from independents, from MBMF to Rolex. Let's chop it up and let's talk about the whole spectrum of watches. Here's the dude who has a chart, and it's based off of two qualifiers. One is wealth, the other is sufferability. Here we go.
To your first and only lesson of watchonomics, where we'll be studying the sufferability and wealth graph. I've been seeing this graph float around social media and thought it would make a really good case study to bring for TikTok. As you can see, a ton of watch brands have been placed on the graph depending on how much money the owner has and whether they're fun to be around or not fun to be around. Let's get into it by seeing which one of these are actually correctly placed. In my opinion, Jacob & Co. being in the peak of has money and insufferable is pretty spot on. Conversely, I also think Casio is pretty good up there in the less money but pretty fun to be around position. Apart from that, I'd probably say Patek Philippe, Jaeger-LeCoultre, IWC, and probably Tissot and Tag are all correctly placed. However, as you can probably tell from that analysis, there's a lot wrong with this graph too. Starting off with the fact that Cartier has been placed below the middle ground for being fun to be around, I think it's kind of harsh. I would actually swap it with Breitling, maybe Blancpain. I think Omega should be on the middle level of fun to be around, but I think it's okay being on this side of the has money axis. I think the watch economist that made this graph is a Rolex fanboy who's upset at how good a Black Bay is compared to a Submariner, because why on earth is Tudor here? Also makes sense why Rolex is up here. I think majority of people in the watch community will know a few insufferable people that own Rolex. Apart from that, Vacheron should be a bit further that way on the has money axis. I think Blancpain should be a bit lower on the sufferability axis. And I just noticed that they've got Apple Watch sneakingly here in the middle. I actually kind of like that. Let me know you guys' thoughts on the graph of wealth and sufferability for watches.
They missed all the independents. Where's Grubel in that mix?
Not enough eyeballs. But what was the objective of that? Sufferability meaning that...
I think how annoying someone is to be around, how
Their
likable
personality.
their personality, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the guy's definitely British. Impressed with how he pronounced Jaeger-LeCoultre. He definitely had the right pronunciation.
Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Pronounces it better than me, that's for sure.
Well,
But I would imagine Jacob & Co. people are kind of fun to be around because they're not buying for flipping, they're not buying for value proposition, they're
definitely
buying
not
just for the enjoyment. They're probably fun people.
Absolutely.
So I would push them above the graph.
That's a good point.
okay, we're spanning the globe a little bit. This guy is kind of obsessed with Richard Mille or RM. He has a watch that looks very similar, but he talks about like the pitfalls of having, whether it's an RM or a Schmarm, however you'd like to say it. Here we go.
Bro, what is this? Hey, bro. Mums, if you see me rocking a Canucci Millie, don't look at me like I owe you anything. Hey, man, them, I can't lie. Mayfair, man's here with my Canucci Millie, bro. From afar, you might think it's a Richard. And you know what? This is dangerous, bro, because, bro, man will be in Mayfair, Oxford Street, wherever it is, Bond Street and that. Niggas will think you're wearing an RM, bro. Try to rob you. Slice off your wrist, bro. These times, you got a Canucci Millie, bro. I won't even tell them, take it, bro. Take it, bro. I'll bust you, bro. Take it. But nah, man, I can't lie. You see, you know what? I get, yeah, drawing inspiration. But, bro, they catted the thing too much, bro. And, bro, it's long for Richard Mille because they devalued their whole brand. They devalued the whole watch, bro, because this is fucked, bro. This is fucked.
The brand is called Canucci Millie?
Yeah.
Canucci Millie?
Canucci Millie. It's probably Richard's cousin. Who knows?
The problem with Richard's cousin, it seems like he gets robbed just as much as the real dude.
I kind of like that one without the diamonds. It's a nice model, actually.
The first one was very cool.
Yeah. Huh. And it almost looks like a new model of it could be a new Richard Mille.
Yep.
Huh.
Steven, both we have two Stevens. Producer Steven. So, upon stumbling across this information, you know, this brand right here, what's like the price point on these watches?
It can't be more than $700. We did a show. It was about a year back when we're going over some watches that were worn on the tennis players, right. And I remember we saw one. It was still a heavy price. It's maybe still 50,000.
Yeah, it wasn't this brand.
It wasn't this brand.
Another brand.
This is definitely like a knock.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, but it had that Chino shape. It looked like a Richard Mille, right?
You're starting to see a lot of homage knockoffs and fakes in a more hot horology packaging. So we're going to pull the Uno reverse card here. We're going to go from no class to all class. Have you ever heard of a guy named, is it Watch Anish? Well, talk about a dude in terms of horology. This is going deep. Do you want to talk about, we go on deep dives? This guy goes on a deep Nautilus dive. Let's check out this
He's
video.
a really good guy, and he's been around a long time, and he was one of the first to have more than 1 million followers on Instagram many years ago, more than a decade ago.
Yeah, it's true. He posts amazing videos.
He's knowledgeable, he's classy, he's respectful, he's a really good man.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Let's check out the video.
Here's the story plus a concise history of the Nautilus. The story starts back during the 1972 Basel World Fair. In the restaurant of the Hotel Ambassador, Gerald Genter sketches his first design for a watch inspired by sailing and the window of a porthole on a boat. He had imagined a monoblock case with 2 hinges and also an integrated bracelet. It was placed into his desk drawer and forgotten about alongside many other designs. Until a few months later when Piaget contacted Genter to design a new waterproof sports watch that was thin enough to house their new extra flat movement. Without hesitation, Genter sent the drawing he had made back in Baselworld. A year went by and he finally received a reply from Piaget. The watch was not suitable for their strategy nor for their production requirements. Then, in Baselworld 1974, he was visited by an agent of Patek Philippe for the Middle East. Patek were looking for a design for a new sports elegant line to satisfy their new entry-level clientele. Genter immediately remembered the watch he had proposed to Piaget a year before and made an appointment within the next few days to meet Philippe Stern at his stand during the fair. Stern complimented the drawing. A few weeks later, the prototype was handed over to the offices of Patek Philippe along with an invoice of 25,000 Swiss francs for the production of it. After 2 weeks, Patek returned with the feedback that the case was very, very difficult to produce, mainly due to its monoblock construction. However, keeping the promise made to Genter, a 3-year contract was signed with a 300 Swiss franc royalty for each watch sold in the line, which was named the Patek Philippe Nautilus. Now here comes the geeky bit. The first ever Nautilus was a reference 3700/1A, produced in 1976. The 42mm stainless steel case was made by Fabre-Perret, and the first edition bracelet was produced by Gay Ferrez. The watch was powered by a Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 920, which was renamed as the caliber 28-255C by Patek. 2 versions of the 3700 existed. They differed mainly by the width of the bracelet. -01A had a more straight and wide bracelet, while the -11A had a more tapered bracelet. The retail price at the time was $3,100 US, which was quite a lot considering it was the same price as a solid gold golden ellipse. A year later, the full gold was introduced. Yellow gold reference 3700/1J was made in 1,000 pieces, and white gold reference 3700/1G was made in only around 40 pieces. At the same time, a unique piece in platinum was made, the retailer stamped Gubeland dial. This watch sold at auction in November 2023 for nearly $3 million, making it the most expensive 3700 ever sold publicly. There were generally 4 retailers that were allowed to stamp dials. On the 3700, those were Bayer, Gubeland, Asprey, and Tiffany & Co. There was also an albino prototype dial made by Stern Frères. Most unusual and rarest of all might be the 3700 stamped with collector Tony Cavalti's name on the actual dial by Patek, as well as a small number of Kanjar dials for the Sultan of Oman.
Yeah, so there's a part 2. We're not going to watch part 2 right now, but what an amazing video, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean,
very educational.
Not just that, so well done. Like, how does this guy do this? I mean, he must have a whole team of artists and everything making. But what struck me is when I was looking into this video was actually this video did not go viral. Like the number of views, it's not like astonishing number. I think it's in the hundreds of thousands of views, not even 1 million views.
I personally watched it 4 times because I learned every single time. Right. The first one, I was kind of mind blown with the Piaget thing. I'm like,
yeah,
did they, as a kid, say, fumble the bag on that design?
Yeah. I remember those 3700s. Fred, do you remember years ago we had one? We actually, there was a trade-in. A client traded one in for like 30 grand.
Yeah, I remember 3700 black dial.
Yeah,
back in the day.
And it came in, but it was like all messed up. No, there was no cork box, but the bezel was kind of messed up. It looked like there was the gasket. The gasket was coming out of the bezel. Like, remember that? And we didn't think it was very viable, and we just flipped it to a dealer for maybe like a $2,000 or $3,000 profit. Wow! And now that's $100,000 easy $100,000 watch.
Would have known. Well, just looking at this video for the first time, I actually now just fell in more in love with the Nautilus.
Yeah, you should check out part 2. Actually, everybody should check out part 2. It's amazing.
You mentioned cork box. Doesn't that go for big bucks?
A lot of money.
Oh yeah.
You just no watch inside, just the box, right?
I think those vintage cork boxes are 20 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. I had no clue what it was. It was something 7K plus.
Not the new one that was reproduced for the 5740, but the original ones. I think they're like 20,000. I might even be off by. It might even be more than that actually.
I would assume it went up.
Amazing.
So this summer in June, we have what's called the show, and it's in Vegas. It's the IWJG, and I believe it's the antique show as well.
Right. They purposely plan it out. So IWJG puts their show right before the antique show. So one show leads into the next show.
All right. Did you have any little birds there? What was going on?
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten very good feedback from people that are actually there. Watches were flying. However, when you look at all the videos of the show, it looks like it's dead. Like you don't see really anyone walking around. But I talked to dealers, and everybody said they sold through merchandise very good. Yeah. So now it looks dead, but people are saying they sold watches. How about you, Stephen?
Are they trading amongst themselves?
That's usually the way it is. But yeah, I mean, for example, Peter Chu, who I spoke to today, said he had a fantastic 4 days. I mean, I'm not going to say the number that he did, but it's unbelievable.
Speaking of Peter Chu, we have a video with him and Jules. So 2 people we've covered and one person we already had as a guest. Here we go.
What's on your wrist, Peter?
A watch.
No, which watch?
Saru.
Saru, we call it. Why? Because of the blue and the ruby?
Red, white, and blue.
That's nice. Cool. All original? The diamond also? How much is that?
Like 125.
125. Nice. What's on your wrist? Okay, doesn't want to say. Okay.
All right, Peter's getting a little notoriety being on Watch by Jules.
Yeah, no, it was extremely good to see him.
Yeah. He even cracked a smile there for a second.
Yeah, this was a cool video. I actually jumped into the comments on this one just to see what people would say about Peter Chu. Pretty much they're like, this guy has no personality, but hey, piss him off, you know?
I mean, she said, what is that? He said, a watch.
Yeah, totally.
Answer.
And another guy that I saw, I'm always looking at social media just for good stuff, but Roman Sharf is a dude that he says he hasn't been there since maybe COVID, maybe before COVID.
Oh, he's been skipping the shows?
Yeah, he's been skipping the shows, but he went to this show. He said he did very, very well. Okay. But I have a video with him, and he's doing an interview at a podcast. He gives some pretty interesting insight on wearing a watch.
How much money do you think someone should have before buying a Rolex?
Give me a dollar amount, because Rolex is very vague.
Submariner.
So let's call it 10 grand. So a lot of people be like, well, before you spend $10,000 on a watch, you should have 100 grand in your savings account. You should have a car. You should have maybe a piece of real estate, and so on and so forth. And I agree with that, but it's situational. What a lot of people don't take into consideration is what that $10,000 Rolex on your wrist can get you in terms of walking into certain doors, in terms of making a certain impression on an individual. There's other values to wearing an expensive watch or an expensive pair of shoes or a nice suit. Okay, I know guys that went into business meetings that were broke as all hell, asking investors for big money, and with their last $5,000 bought a Brioni suit. You would think it's a stupid fucking move, but guess what? When they walked in there with a pair of crocodile shoes on, a beautiful suit, an attaché, and a Rolex they borrowed from their next door neighbor, they made an impression that later got them a deal that got them to a point where they could buy 10 of those Rolexes, right? It's very situational, but a rule of thumb, we're going to stick with the first thing that I told you. Don't buy expensive things with your last money.
God, Roman can talk, man. That guy.
He's smooth.
He's got the gift of gab, man.
He's smooth. He's really good. But he's a nice man.
Oh, he's the best.
I
mean, both of us probably go back like over almost 20 years, probably knowing Roman.
I met him for the first time here in this office.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
We both started in the business in about 23 years ago, and Jan called me up. And he said, there's a guy here from Philadelphia. If you've never met him, you really should meet him.
Really?
And he said, come over and meet this gentleman, Roman Shaw from Luxury Bazaar. And that's when we met.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was this exact office, yes? Or maybe next door.
One suite over, but yeah, more or less, same floor, everything.
He's a really good man. Nice guy, always complimenting the brands, always complimenting other people, and respectful man.
Great guy. And Roman, if you're watching this, one day we're going to get you on this podcast. I'm sure he's going to be happy to do a podcast. Obviously, he does podcasts all the time.
Yeah.
We just got to get him when he's actually in Los Angeles. I don't think he's just going to fly out specially to do the podcast, but yeah, he's a great guy. And I remember for Essential Watches, he used to always let me photograph his merchandise for the website. He had no problem. Whatever was in his showcase, he says, Seth, go ahead, photograph whatever you want. Nice. Take some good pictures. Yeah, he's a great guy, great guy.
You were talking about, if I can change gears for a moment, maybe, you were talking about the shows in Vegas last week, but did you follow the auctions in New York?
No.
Because that was surprising for me, if I may.
Go ahead.
Unbelievable results. Record results across all brands, not just FP Journe or Patek or AP, everything. All the small independents did well. There's a resurgence now, as you know, with Cartier as a brand. But the auctions were really strong, and it surprised me because the auctions recently, they were first in Geneva, then in Dubai, then Hong Kong, and now New York season. And it's over until the end of the year. But the other countries were relatively soft compared to the New York auctions, which were really strong. My feeling is that, they say 30 to 35, maybe even 40% of the luxury watch market is in the US, and people are now worried about the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the foreign auctions, the American buyers excluded themselves from participating, and here now that they knew the watches were already in the United States, tariff cleared, there was a lot of activity. And I was kind of surprised. The results were much stronger than the other auctions from the same auction companies in Geneva, Dubai, and Hong Kong.
So which auctions are you talking about? Christie's?
All of them. They had in New York last weekend, it was Phillips auctions on Friday and Saturday, then there was Christie's, then Sotheby's. So they had all three of them.
Hey,
and they were all strong. All of them had strong results.
Wow, that's excellent news, actually. Just in general for the watch market, that's excellent news. I didn't know that.
Because there's so much uncertainty. So what happened to us yesterday, we received a watch back from repair from one of the independent factories in Switzerland, and it was a warranty repair, no charge. But they had to declare on the paperwork the value of the watch for insurance purposes. Right. So it was very clear. So in this case, it was a $50,000 watch, a return from repair, zero value, zero charge. We gave to FedEx all the correct paperwork, the importer's declaration. They still charged us 10% on the value of the watch. They charged $5,000 tariff. Now, I'm confident that that's a mistake on their side, and I'm confident we will get it refunded because we paid for it already. But that's the kind of uncertainty that you're dealing with.
Wow.
And as a supporter of all the independent brands and representative of many of these brands, we get a lot of people contacting us to send the watches in for them for service.
Wow.
And now I'm in a situation, depending on the outcome of what happens with this and FedEx, what are we going to do next time somebody who's not our customer asks us, can you send a watch in for service for one of these smaller independent brands? maybe the answer will be yes, but we won't bill you until we've received our bill from FedEx. And if they charge us, or whoever it is, Mulkamit, if they charge us for the on the value for tariff, we have to pass it on to you.
Okay, so for some clarification, duty and tariff are two totally different types of taxes, right?
Exactly.
And historically, the duty on Swiss watches coming into the United States has always been very low. Like if you're importing a watch from Switzerland, maybe you're paying what, 2-3%?
Even less, because what happens is the rule of the duty rule is you only pay duties on the value of the strap, the case, and the buckle. You don't pay duties on the value of the movement, which is really intellectual property. That's why there's no duties on art that comes into America. There's no duty on software because that's an intellectual property value, not physical value. And so if you think about it, a $1 million watch that has a white gold case or a platinum case and a $50,000 watch that has the same value case, you'd pay the same duty because the real value of the $1 million watch is in the movement and not in the value of the case or the diamonds. Because what I deal with is mainly not diamond crusted or jewelry pieces. So you're right, it's normally even less. A $50,000 watch, you could pay $300 in duties, and a $500,000 watch, you pay the same $300 in duties.
But this new tariff now has basically changed the rules on what you expect to pay when you import the watch.
And it's 10% on everything, on value of everything.
And that's not even a watch sale. It's
and so what
service.
happens with repairs, we did receive, right in the early days of the tariff, we did receive a watch back from Grubel Forzi, and it was a $350 through Mulkamit, $350,000 declared value, but only $8,000 US value of the repair because it was a total service.
Right.
And they charged $800, 10% on the value of the service.
So that one you're saying was you think was done correct, and this last one was done incorrectly.
Exactly, because the true value is you're supposed to be paying the tariff only on the value of the improvements, not on the value of the watch that's already been imported into America and has been owned by a customer for the last number of years in America.
So you had a decision to make on this last watch. You just paid it and felt like you're just going to fight it later, but just get the watch through.
You have to pay because the way the system works is you have to pay, and then you dispute later because otherwise they're going to start charging you late fees and all sorts of things. But it's stressful.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now the next time if this is in, if we're negotiating now with FedEx for months, I'm not going to want to take another watch in and help a customer and service the watch.
Right. You're out of pocket. Yeah.
I had a question. So with shipping a watch out to overseas for service, you're saying you went ahead, you paid the fee through a tariff fee, correct? For tariffs?
To import
on the return.
To import
on
it,
the
right?
return.
To export it.
So once you pay that fee, later on you would resubmit the documentation that you've had showing that you shipped the watch for service.
And it came back with zero value. It was a warranty repair.
Right.
But the factory had to declare a certain value of the watch for their insurance purposes. So they declared in this example $50,000 value, zero value for maintenance, for service, but FedEx charged us $5,000, which is 10% on the $50,000 value. So I'm confident it's an error, and we'll see how that pans out. We can discuss it another time.
So does it work a little different, with tariffs versus duty? Meaning, if there's duty owed on an item being imported, it's held at customs, correct?
Generally, no. If you have a relationship with the shippers and you have
like a broker,
either a broker or you have your form signed with them that they can act on your behalf, then they'll bring it in, deliver it to you, and bill you later.
Oh, okay.
But FedEx automatically charges our credit card, so it was charged, and now we have to dispute it.
Oh. Well, speaking about independent watches, Stephen, I'd ask you to bring in a few watches to go over today. Let me quickly grab those watches. Let's go over them.
And I have one last comment because I never knew. We started off talking about Chinese-made components made in China and what that means, and that came out around the time of tariffs. So I'm assuming that popped its head out at that time because the rule for tariffs is regardless of where you bring the item in from, it all depends on where it was manufactured. So a lot of people said, well, what happens if you take a Swiss watch? At the time, it was 32%, if you remember, for Switzerland. Now there's a 90-day hold, it's 10%.
Right.
So they said, well, what happens if we export the watch to Canada and you can import it from Canada or Mexico and import it from Mexico? But the rule is very specific. If it's Swiss made, those are the fees. Those are the tariff percentages.
And if it's Chinese made,
it's a low. Well, now it would be 120%.
Right. In the beginning, I think it was 250% or something.
Things
like
have
this.
changed.
So maybe that was just a play to actually like screw over Trump with the tariffs, I think.
And then the last comment, because if people don't know, even a pre-owned watch, a secondary market used watch that's brought in from anywhere in the world, there's a 10% tariff on the value of that import.
Wow. All right. Well, that just increases the odds that people are going to buy watches that are already located domestically and not buy from Japan, Germany, whatnot.
And my assumption is that this last weekend or last week's successful auctions in New York were because there were so many more people participating because they didn't have the tariffs looming around.
Right. They were attracted to the auctions because there's no
I'm gonna get these watches
additional fees. Makes sense. And the auctions also are pretty good because you always find some really spectacular timepieces there. It's not; these aren't pieces you see on Chrono 24 floating around
every day, right?
Or you'll find like 8 sellers, offering the same watch. They're a little bit more kosher, I'd say.
All right. Here's some watches. Let me just set that right on top of these.
On top of the Rolexes.
Yeah. On top of
They bashed you for that last time, Seth. And we need gloves. When they see Steven, they talk gloves.
Hey, listen, these are Steven's watches.
Just as long as we match what he's doing. We keep his energy, then
these are his watches.
These are his watches. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, the last time Steven visited us, we had some comments from people talking about, why are you touching his watches without gloves? But today we have full permission to, what do you say?
Finger fuck his watches.
Fuck your watches.
To go in raw.
Here, Fred.
All right, what we got?
You're out. Give me your glass. All right, so Steven, you brought in some nice watches. Let's get into it. Walk us through these things.
What's on the tray, one by one?
Yes.
And then what's on my wrist after that?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll get to the wrist. That's the one right
there. And we may have shown some of these brands before, but in any case, I'll start from the right and I'll move right left. This is a Ludwig Ballard upside down, and this particular piece is made in platinum with a North African petrol blue meteorite dial. There were 3 pieces made for me for Rostovsky watches, and this is the last one. This is number 3 of 3. We've sold number 1 and number 2. It took about a year to get delivery of all 3 because the factory only makes about 30 watches a year. And the way the watch works, if you remember, is all of the numbers are upside down, and the only hour that is showing goes right side up. So right now the watch is showing the current time, 6:20. 6 has a dot next to it, and it's the right way up, and then the hand is for the minutes.
Fantastic.
So why do they put the numbers upside down? What's the logic there?
Instead of having a jump hour, it's kind of interesting to have the way you read the time. You read it from the hour that's showing the correct way up.
That's upright, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
So and it's really easy to read the time on the watch. So right now it's 6:20. You can see that the 6 is the only one that is the correct way up, and every other numeral is upside down.
Okay, but when it gets to 7, it's going to be right side up.
Correct.
Okay,
so,
that's what they're doing.
and I'll show you from the movement side as well. Let's move that and see. So if we move the hands now, 45, 50, 55, you'll see the 6 is going to switch.
Angle it a little bit more.
We'll do B-roll later, Seth.
The 6 will switch, and the 7 will go the other way around.
Uh-huh.
And then you can see the complication on the movement side, how complicated it is with
That's
all
a
the
beautiful movement. Wow.
That's the wrong way. This way, yes. So you can see all the movement components moving as the
So you're saying
hours
you,
are switching.
you were able to sell piece 1 and 2 no problem. Not no problem, but it took about a year. But
No,
1
it
and
took
2
them a year to deliver all 3. We just received this one recently.
But you've sold 1 and 2.
We've sold number 1 of 3.
And what is
number
the
2 of
price
3.
point on this watch?
126,000, if I recall, but it will be more now because again there's a tariff and the US dollar is much weaker against the Swiss franc.
Okay.
This one just came in, so I think it's going to be in the $145,000
And
range.
you are an authorized dealer right now
Yes.
for this brand? Okay.
Yes.
And
Ludwig
they are
Ballard.
and they're fetching full MSRP.
Yes.
Maybe like a smidgen discount, a smidgen.
Sometimes if there's a trade involved, we can absorb it.
A little something, but not much.
And what was the
generally, no.
stone in the dial again?
This one is a meteorite dial, but it's a North Africa petrol blue meteorite. It's been treated to get to the color.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful. So, Stephen, this piece is manufactured at 3 in the world. Why number 3? Is that your favorite number?
No. I received number 1 of 3, 2 of 3, and 3 of 3. It was a limited edition that they made for me, and it took over a year to deliver all of them. Wow. Because I only receive from the factory about 4 or 5 watches a year. They make only 30 watches a year.
Wow. So this particular watch, you're looking at like, what, 6 to 8 months for assembly?
No. They do all the assembly themselves, and the components are manufactured outside, so they really create the movements. He's a master watchmaker. He used to work at Frank Mueller and then at FP Journe in all the high complications. Then he started his own company many years ago, and he assembles about 30 watches a year.
Wow.
Beautiful. But it takes time.
Yep.
All right, what's the next watch?
The next watch is a Art Time. This is a flying tourbillon with an open architecture. Made in titanium with a sapphire block. It's not just the crystal inside, you can see the sapphire block, but it's also the numerals on the inside underneath the crystal that are part of that same sapphire block. And there's no base plate to this watch, so it's a flying tourbillon with an indicator on through the crown to move from time setting mode to wind mode to neutral. And it's 20 pieces were made. I ordered 5 of them. Blue accents were the pieces made for Rostovsky watches. Came with 2 straps, a blue strap and a white strap. And the blue on the inside of the case reflects through the crystal.
Wow.
All the bridges are solid gold, front and back. They figured out after the first run that it was too expensive to do all gold bridges. So now they do gold bridges either in pink gold or in the titanium watch, it's in white gold. They do gold bridges on the front only, and the back is in brass.
Interesting. So you're saying maybe the first edition watches were done with gold bridges?
They're all done with gold bridges. The first 20. The first 20
So
in
maybe
titanium.
those are going to, in the future, achieve a higher price because those were the first ones done. Okay.
And these pieces are numbered?
These pieces
from 1 to
are
20?
numbered 1 of 20. They're all numbered
One
the same,
of.
1 of 20.
Okay.
So even my series of 5 are the same as the 1 of 20.
Got it.
So 5 were made with all the blue accents. I put blue on the logo, blue in the inside of the hands, the numerals, blue on the crown, and the inside of the case has a blue treatment to it that reflects through the crystal.
When you showed us these last time, did you bring one that had like a diamond bezel? Is
No.
that no? Were there any diamonds on it?
No.
Okay, scratch
Always
that.
the same.
Okay.
And with this architecture, so there's no base plate, so the whole movement is held together by the bridges on the corners, and everything else is connected. So if you removed one of the bridges,
it'll fall out.
The movement would collapse.
It's like in a Faraday cage, pretty much.
The Richard Mille RM 12. It was called the architecture watch. They made 30 of them in many years ago in platinum. It was the same concept where the whole movement was held together with an architectural concept.
And the MSRP is
270.
270.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, so the sapphire crystal and the hour markers is just one monolithic piece.
Yes, one
Wow,
block.
that's
and that's
cool.
really hard for them to.
I know. How do you shave underneath
exactly.
that? Oh, man.
The next one is the Romain
Two-dimensional.
Gaultier C, and this is the latest release from them with a black open dial. In the C series, there were 6 versions of limited editions, starting off with 28 pieces in the first, edition 1, and then they were all edition 2 through 5 were 38-piece limited edition. Edition 6 was 88 pieces.
And the C's, that's their sports model.
That's their sports line.
And also a little bit more inexpensive, right, than the other line?
The logical ones or the micro rotors are more expensive. It's more haute horology.
But this is a tourbillon.
No, it's a balance wheel.
Oh, it's
open,
not a,
open
I thought it was a
architecture in the front.
okay.
No tourbillon.
Oh, it looks okay. Gotcha.
Total, all in-house manufactured titanium case, titanium links, beautifully done. And the retail price of this, again, it depends on the exchange rate and the tariffs, but it's about 55 or 56,000.
Okay, and that's a 40 millimeter case?
I think it's 42 actually.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right.
It just has a small appearance because it's integrated.
And how are these selling?
Great.
Okay.
Great. This is the latest one that just came out. I still have the gray dial and the Lever de Soleil, the sundial, but this is the latest in black with an open movement.
Okay, so this is a deal for only 50,000.
So is this also offered on a rubber strap, being like their sport watch?
Those are the limited edition pieces.
Oh, the sport, okay.
And they made a decision, unlike other companies, where if you have a look, I wish I had one here, but the rubber strapped watches have a totally different case design, so you cannot
switch out.
You cannot
Oh,
switch from
interesting.
bracelet to
Okay.
strap. So they wanted to have all the limited edition strap watches be unique to that case, and the bracelet watches, which are not limited edition, and they make about 200 watches a year in the bracelet versions. You can see that in the bracelet, the connection is right through just in the center. In the strap versions, it's a traditional lug with a spring bar in between, and the strap fits right in.
That's a really cool piece. Being called a C, you could definitely see has its C aesthetic. So you have the offset crown. You know, it's sitting at 2 o'clock versus 4 o'clock, which I think is really cool. For a lot of people who don't know, these offset crowns were set offset on like, I guess it's a search and rescue watch, to where, you know, if you're rescuing someone, it's not going to get in the way and like affecting the timing when you're in the water and stuff like that, because, you know, these guys, a second makes a difference when you're trying to save a life.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And then this is the Gronefeld Delta Works, which they're only going to, I'm an authorized retailer for all of these brands, but the Gronefeld Delta Works is their sports watch. Similar movement, it's big, it's sporty, it's aggressive, it's strong.
Yeah, it looks robust.
This is only the second piece I've received. They can only make about 20 a year of the Delta Works.
Is it like a retro look? I see some kind of like patina in the hands and the dial.
Yes, and several different dial options, and also you can order the watch. When you order it, you can order it with the rubber pieces on the side or stainless steel pieces on the side. So a lot of people order it with black to match the black, or if it was green, they would order green, or orange and orange. I felt, since I wasn't pre-selling any of the watches, I felt I would order them with steel inserts, so you could then choose various different strap options and it would all match.
Okay, this beautiful watch. Wow, great dial. Can I guess the retail price?
Sure.
I'm going to guess 44,000.
56.
56.
Wow. I was off. And then the last one on my wrist is the Grubel 4Z double balancier in clear sapphire. And they actually just showed a blue sapphire convex case in the double balancier, but when I was representing the brand as their distributor for the United States, we started all the sapphire watches with them. And we did first the sapphire technique, 10 pieces, the double tourbillon technique, and then we did 11 double balanciers in clear sapphire with a blue movement and a blue dial, sorry. It's a solid gold treated with blue. This one happens to be green. It's mirror polish. Then we did 2 with green, 2 with burgundy, and 2 with blue, but with a blue sapphire.
Gorgeous. Wow. You must get a lot of compliments on when you wear this watch.
It's also safe.
I like the green
Nobody
color.
Really, the green's beautiful.
Yeah, the green's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because normally when I think of Grubel 4Z, I always think of that royal blue that I've seen in some of the previous models.
This
like
is
the
a
GMT 24-hour.
Fantastic summer watch.
Yes.
Yeah. The color green, man. The color of refreshment and rebirth.
And I feel safe walking around, because a lot of people who are not into watch, first of all, you really know where to go with it compared to other mass brand watches. And secondly, a lot of people think it's just a plastic swatch.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I got it at
If you
Ross.
know, you know.
All right.
Thank you for allowing me to show you that.
You got it. Well, listen, Stephen, I appreciate you coming by. Thank you very much for showing us your watches. Thank you very much for appearing on our podcast again. It's great to see you. I'm glad to hear business is well and strong.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much. All of you, Stephen, Fred, Seth, thank you for having me.
And if you sold a couple watches from your last podcast, I hope that this podcast will bring you a couple more sales.
It was really a very, very good experience. I met a really good collector who lives in Germany.
Yeah.
A religious Jewish guy who lives in Germany, and he has an office in New York as well. And I happened to bump into him in Switzerland at Watches and Wonders in April.
And he said,
so
I saw you on this rinky-dink podcast.
He said, Stephen, and we met. It was very nice.
All right.
So thank you for that.
That's awesome. All right. I love to hear that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. It's always an honor to work with you.
Well, thanks, sir.
Thank you, Stephen.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time on the next EW podcast. Thank you.
EW podcast, I hope you know we talking about a watch.